in America Tonight, we talk about different professions and now where kids are when they're in school and they're trying to look to the future and what they want to do. And what is it about those that want to go into the law? We know that there are some students that are struggling. The numbers are kind of all over the board, especially when they get out. What are they doing? Where are they getting a job? And what are they thinking of futuristically? But the first step is they have to be successful as a law student. And you think of the responsibility there because of what you're investing in it. So we thought it'd be fun to have Professor Joe Marino on with us. And thank you so much for coming on, Joe. We appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, Kate. And really, it's a pleasure to be on the air with you.
So are there more law students now than before?
The number of law students had grown to an all-time high about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. But actually, right now, entering law school, the numbers are no greater than they were in 1976. People have become gun-shy of law school for the high-cost law school and, as you said, the lack of jobs that are available.
So what's the first thing somebody has to do to chart a good course, in your opinion, when they start off?
You know, when you start law school, and of course, there's the choice of law school, and today it is a little less competitive because there are fewer students that are applying. But when you get into law school, it's very important, and students know this, to do well in your first semester. And one of the keys to doing well in your first semester is to enter school, but not just follow along with what the professor is teaching, but it's important for that student to get context, to learn and understand that subject matter so they can place what that professor is doing within the subject matter. That law school is very difficult, and the professor's approach to law school isn't the typical college approach where you explain everything. Law school is about taking responsibility, and one of the big pieces of advice is before you actually start the class, go study that subject matter, get a good review book, know that subject matter, and you're more likely then to appreciate and comprehend what that professor is teaching you.
Yeah, and I mentioned the thing about jobs and getting out in jobs, but you got to start to think about the job search right from the very beginning, don't you?
Well, jobs are very, very tough to get, and when you enter law school, one of the best ways to get jobs is to start interning and working in the profession. And you need to start to think about it, because if you're not hired permanently for a job during law school, that you're not likely to get a job then until possibly as much as 6 months or 8 months later. You know, when you graduate, if you don't have a job, you go study for that bar exam, you devote yourself full time, and then you may have to wait 4 months before you get your results and more time to actually get admitted. And many times during that period of time, people don't want to hire you. They don't want to hire someone that they may have to fire if they fail the bar. So you're right. You've got to start to consider your job. Not first semester, but by second semester, you're starting to look for internships, summer placement, and in today's market, networking is a critical component to this.
I just had two friends that passed the bar, and one was in Texas, and he said it was incredibly tough, but he studied a lot for it. How much do you have to study for the bar?
Well, I tell my students that when they come to our course, in my introductory lecture, I fundamentally tell them I own them, that I expect that they're, and they appreciate this, but I expect that they're going to be devoting 10 hours a day, at least 5 or 6 days a week for about an 8-week period, solely focused on preparing for the exam. We tell students during that period of time that if you've got a significant other, you've got to go tell them to leave you alone. You've got to be selfish. You have to focus on yourself. It is an incredibly intense experience. Kate, you can ask a lawyer what they had for lunch yesterday, and they don't know the answer. You can ask somebody who took the bar 30 years ago, what was on the bar, and they'll start to tell you the questions.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, lasting impression.
Yeah. Obviously, there was a family history for you. Is that what made you want to go into the law?
Yes, it was. My father, we're now our Marino Legal Academy. We do a number of things. But in 1946, my father started a bar review course. He was known as one of the founders of modern-day bar review. Before that, there were no real organized programs. And my father ran the programs, and I, as a high school student and college student, worked with the family business and fell in love with the business. I went to law school the same as my dad's. And in the 70s, began teaching with him. I changed the style to reflect there were no real review books in the 40s. There were by the late 70s. He retired, and my wife and I then continued in the bar review business. We, in the 90s, were the second largest in the Northeast, third or fourth in the country. We went into continuing legal education in the 90s and began law school and bar tutoring. And then in the mid-2000s, when my son graduated law school, same law school as my father and myself, he joined us. And then with him, we moved to an online platform. And so at this current time, we're doing bar review courses, supplemental style courses, law school bar tutoring, and continuing legal education. And we're the third generation, and my son and I are both educators. He teaches at schools, too.
I love that, third generation. Where did you go to law school? Where did everybody go?
We went to St. John's Law School in New York City.
I love it. Yeah, good basketball team, too, so you had no time to watch the hoops, though.
We did, and we were down there with the Redmen watching them now. They've changed their name.
What's your favorite part about doing this, about continuing the academy, and now your son involved as well? What's the best part of this whole thing for you?
In addition to this, I've taught 18 years at a major law school here in New York, and I love teaching. I'm really rewarded by doing it, and my son, I see, is the same way. To come up, design a program, to work with somebody with a specific objective to help them, that it's an incredibly rewarding experience. And both my son and I talk to my wife and even our office about the experience, and that's the best part of all of this.
Is there a trend you're seeing in law right now? What kind of law do you think there are more jobs? Because we talked about that, the competitiveness of it. Where do you think the new area of law is going to expand? Because the lack of jobs in firms, and we see firms laying people off and firing people, we see many, many people now going into the sole practice of law. That's provided they're going to go into law. So we're not, so in this area, there's naturally certain growth areas of law that tend to shift with the times, but it's really shrinking at the moment for an attorney, and people are just gravitating to hanging their own shingle, and it's something law schools have to really be concerned with, as well as continuing legal education has to be concerned with that as well. So is that some of the big law firms are shrinking, or there's just fewer of them and they consolidate and get the best that they can? They're shrinking. That means they're consolidating at the same time. But we see large firms are letting go many, many attorneys. They are tightening their belt. This, of course, is a reflection of the economy that's out there. Many of those attorneys then do form smaller firms, but those attorneys, many of them are just going to hang their own shingle and go out there on their own. But there are also many alternative things, you can do with a law degree. You can teach, of course, and even jobs in government. The law degree can become very important as far as helping your career. Boy, yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. Finance, there's a lot of areas that you could go into. At the academy, do you teach other things? Are there, paralegals, that kind of stuff as well? Do you do any of that? No, we don't do paralegal. As I said, that we do tutoring for law school and bar review students and continuing ed. In bar review, we do supplemental programs to enhance skill sets. That we do have affiliations with companies that do, for the LSAT, the admission tests. But we stay very much focused in this area that I've described. So you keep up, you know what it is, and you just drill them down on this is exactly what you need for the bar, so that they can, because that bar score counts for so much, doesn't it? Obviously, they have to pass. Without passing the bar exam, you just have an educational degree. You cannot go out and practice law, and so it is the most critical exam to become a lawyer. It's going to be the most critical exam and an important one that you're going to be denied to practice law. Yeah, boy, no kidding. What's your best success story? Because I bet you have one. Do you have a favorite student, or was there someone that came back and they wanted to teach with you, or did something that you couldn't believe they did that was incredible?
But most people, when I say most people, you still have to have a memory. But many people still remember that the story about JFK Jr., who had taken the bar twice and failed, and he was up for his third shot, and if he failed, he would lose his job with the Manhattan DA's office. And JFK, for that third attempt, came to us. The first two, he went to our competitors. And at that time, and it's one of our favorite stories because we didn't want to take him at first. And the current governor of the state of New York, actually then he wasn't the governor, called, and he was a friend of John's, and sort of really encouraged us to take John in. And John moved in with us in our home, basically, for 2 months, which I wouldn't normally do, and that's why this story stands out. And we worked with him. And my wife and I often fondly remember sometimes sitting 3 a.m. in the morning in our kitchen having coffee with John and him talking about, oh, my mother, my aunt, they made me go camping. And we're, of course, sitting there bursting knowing he's talking about Camelot.
That's crazy. And then there's your success story because he passed.
He passed. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And he was one of these stories where you realize that he wasn't successful because he matched himself with the wrong form of education for himself. And until he was able to get the right fit, he was going to struggle with this exam. But we gave him the right fit at Marino.
All right, excellent. I love your story. It's so great. Professor Joe, thanks so much for spending time with us here on America Tonight.
Oh, thank you, Kate. I really, really appreciate it for me and Marino Legal Academy as well.
All right, thank you, Joe. Bye-bye.
Thank you now. Bye-bye.